Hello everyone, welcome to Tuesday of an awesome broadcast about the FileMaker platform. We're working to train everyone on being awesome FileMaker developers to make awesome solutions specific to you, which is great. Your customers need you to make great FileMaker solutions. And to help you do that, we are talking to Jesse Barnum over these 4 days where we're talking about awesome stuff. In fact, that's his smiling mug right there on screen. So what I'm gonna do, he's muted for the moment, which is awesome. I'm gonna move him out of the way. Welcome to day 2 of FileMaker and the enterprise, right? And we got Jesse Barnum here, which makes things a lot easier because without a solution like FM Starting Point, and without a product like 360 Works Mirrorsync, getting to the enterprise is really hard, right? So, so let's talk about today's day 2. This broadcast is brought to you by FMtraining.tv, where we create great training curriculum. And we really appreciate all the people who support it. All the people who come here on a daily basis. They buy the training. They help support the channel. Because really, yeah, I mean, this is the money we got from Claris to do the broadcast, right? No, that's not it. They actually give. Yeah, it's like you would think there'd be at least like happy, smart thoughts and smiles and stuff, but we just like look at each other. So, and for those of the senior developers out there in the community, yeah, you know how that is. So anyway, the broadcast is not sponsored by anyone, but it is funded by people like you. So definitely check out our FileMaker training at FMtraining.tv. Now, keep in mind, we do have upcoming broadcasts. If you go to FMtraining.tv, you can click down the live tab, come down and see the upcoming scheduled broadcast. We are broadcasting every day at 1 o'clock Pacific time. The content varies between beginner and super ninja advanced, which it gets to a point where I can't even do it. It's like super advanced, right? And so I bring in people who are much smarter than I, and I can sit there and learn with you and everyone else, right? Pretty cool. So once again, this week is about the enterprise. Really cool stuff. I think it's very important stuff. But that's because Claris is starting to position the product as an enterprise product, right? And really the only way to get to the enterprise right now is with Jesse. If you want to go to the enterprise, you need Jesse, or you need, you know, a spare $200,000 or $300,000 and a lot of time on your hands. So, but Jesse cuts the corner, makes it easy for an amazing low price. And so let's talk about, well, we're almost to the amazing low price, but we are broadcasting in high definition to 1080 to both YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. I'm going to press the button over here to make sure I bring it up on YouTube. So Jesse will be talking. Whoa! I hear myself talking. Hush. So, and that's what I was about to say, is that I am going to be monitoring Twitch and YouTube and Discord because there's all these conversations going on. Discord is more for the people who are kind of returning people who come in all the time. There's like people who want to learn ongoing, not just kind of the enterprise stuff. And so we'll post an invite over to Discord for you. In fact, one's there on Twitch already. I'll copy and paste that over to, in fact, Brotherman, if you can go to Discord and copy and paste, well, you can't do it either, right? I have to log into YouTube. YouTube doesn't trust anyone to actually put anything in because people start to put not safe for work photos into the broadcast, which is, can get a little exciting, a little racy, right? So, so I've got Twitch, YouTube, and Discord going. Excellent. Moving down the line. So, once again, if you want to help sponsor or support the broadcast, we recommend that you check out our training. We have these great training bundles right here. If you look in your, right there, they're that way, right? So we have a training bundle which includes special versions of FM Starting Point, all our training, and a full copy of FileMaker Pro 19. And you can get that, or you can get the video-only training. If you're looking for a DevCon discount, which we're starting to run now because we're just weeks away from DevCon, you can get that. You can get a double deal, right? If you go to In-N-Out, get a double engaged burger. You basically get 2 basically for a really low price. And so you go to that link right there. We will copy and paste that link, bit.ly, and /FM double. Now, Jesse also has his own amazing photo, right? This is Jesse at 360 Works with his team of awesome developers. Once again, I don't think the FileMaker community would be what it is without a couple vendors like Jesse that really make mission critical products. And so Jesse has a deal right now. If you want the software that you were talking about today, you need to go to 360works.com, and you're going to, I guess you could press the FileMaker /sync down there. But the promo code you need is RCC Live 2020. So this is 15% off of Mirrorsync, which is this is a considerable saving. This is at least 150, well, probably 100 to 150 bucks off. It depends on the licensing and what you're doing with Mirrorsync. They have kind of different tiers and stuff, but someone be like, oh, I can't afford Mirrorsync. Okay, but then you can afford to spend 2 months of work trying to write your own sync solution, right? So we had people yesterday, we had some very senior FileMaker people in the community. They said, oh yeah, we would never want to write our own sync solution. It's just better to pay the $1,000, $2,000 to Jesse to get the software that just does it automatically. So way, way better. Jacob Taylor, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so give us our news issue that we ran into. We have this, it brought to my attention, I missed the memo last week, but there's basically this really gnarly exploit for Windows that just popped out. And I'm trying to figure out, did you post that to the engineering thread, or where'd you post that to?
I emailed it out to the company, actually.
Okay, here it is right here. So this is the thread right here. So I got it on screen right now. You want to give us the 60-second summary of this exploit and the fact that if you have a Windows server, especially if it's not on Amazon, especially so you need to get it patched. Do we want to run through that real quick?
Yeah, the very short version of it is they found an exploit in the DNS lookup system, or the DNS server system of Windows specifically, and it's remotely exploitable, and so for sort of obvious reasons, that's a huge issue. I think it's probably a bigger risk if you have on-premise servers or something like that, mainly because that page that Richard actually has up there is the original research where the people at the company that figured this out found it, and they sort of point out that you can take over the entire Windows server via basically a finely crafted, someone looks up a domain on the server, that response comes back with that IP address. You can stuff some extra stuff in there, and then you just have control over that Windows domain server.
Right.
And that's a huge issue for any enterprise, absolutely massive. And so the very short version of that long description is you need to do your Windows updates ASAP if you've not done them. And so if you have Windows desktop computers or something like that, hopefully they're on automatic. But for servers that may not be, you just want to jump in there as soon as you possibly can and apply the latest set of patches. They came out last Tuesday. The reason we're sort of throwing up the flag on this is because Microsoft took the somewhat unprecedented step of sending a push notification to all of the people who pay Microsoft for Platinum whatever, lots of dollars per year for support from Microsoft directly. They sent push alerts to all of those people's phones telling them, hey, you need to install this month's Windows updates ASAP. And that they've never done that before. And so I'm interpreting that loud and clear signal as a loud and clear signal.
Yeah.
We need to install today. So
okay, cool. And then Amazon does try to block this traffic already from even getting in, but
I assume that they would take something like that seriously, and they might apply. It's possible that they will apply mitigations to it. I personally at least assess it as a little bit lower risk. Obviously, you should just still do it, is the short version.
Yeah.
But it's a little less time critical because they'd have to mess with Amazon to get this done on the Amazon servers. And I mean, maybe you can do that, but it's just a hard task, basically.
Sure.
It's a little harder than messing with some small business or something like that.
All right, so I'm going to pivot away from this. Jacob, thank you for your input. I'm going to recommend you go ahead and mute if you want to hang or not. That's fine with me. I'm going to activate Jesse. So we're going to break the glass and activate Super Jesse. Jesse, are you there? Hello.
I figured out how the mute button works.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you had it backwards yesterday.
I did.
I almost got a walker and a wheelchair in here for you because you're like too old to use a mute button. And I'm like, shh. He can code Amazon up his ass, but he can't use Slack. So I don't know what that means.
I think that's fair.
All right. So show your screen. What are we? So like, can we recap briefly yesterday? So yesterday we laid the groundwork. Once again, I want to welcome Alexi back. Also, Dwayne Mossy is hanging out too. There's all sorts of lurkers from the FileMaker community that are hanging out here. Jay Dripper there in Reno. We're not doing any adjudication. Obviously, Paris is here from your team. I saw her show up. So a lot of people here. So what are we looking at, Jesse, and why do I care? What are we doing here?
Yeah. So, well, first of all,
and then
I'm going
to move. Yeah, there we go. Move my. Yeah, you're good. They can see this. Let's just keep it out of the way down there.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to first of all reinforce something that you were saying, Richard, which is I love getting questions while we're presenting this stuff. So please, if you guys any questions you want to put in, I've got some people from my staff on. Richard's got people from his staff on, and it just makes the presentation a lot more interesting, especially for those of you who are here live while we're doing it. Feel free to jump in with anything you got, because I always find that makes the demo more interesting rather than just me kind of doing a canned thing. So yeah, keep the questions coming. Alexia, I saw it was your birthday today, so happy birthday. And so moving on, I think what we wanted to talk about today was the actual installation process. What you're looking at, by the way, this isn't really part of the presentation, but it's more interesting than just a green background screen. This is the Mirrorsync configuration client. This is the application that gets installed. It's a desktop app. You double click it, and you connect to the server that Mirrorsync is running on to configure the sync and to monitor it and see how it's going. As you can see right here, I've got my hub server is this address right here. That's our Northern California server. And then my spokes are B, which is Northern Virginia, and C, which is Ireland. I've got it set to auto sync every 5 seconds. Something that...
I'm going to stop. So can you, before you start installing stuff, can you explain... I mean, right now, Mirrorsync is this vaporous, magical box of unicorn dust or some crap. So, what is this, and where does it go? And so where is D on here? We're going to do D today. Is that what we're doing? The 101D? Is that what we're doing today?
You want to do that? D is Mumbai. Should we do that today?
Well, today, yeah, and then Australia. Well, today was Mumbai, and tomorrow's Australia, right?
Let's install it in Mumbai today.
Okay, so but explain to us where is this syncing going on, right? I mean, I need to like from a structural standpoint, where does the software go? I mean, if I had one server, it'd be pretty obvious it's on that one server, I guess, right? But if we have 4 servers or 8 servers, where is Mirrorsync? I mean, this is part of a service that's running on this machine. Is that what we're doing right here?
Yep, when you run the Mirrorsync installer that you can download from our website, it installs as a background service. That's either on Windows or Mac. You can also install it on Linux. It's a little bit more kind of, you're on your own a little bit with Linux to set it up as a service. But yeah, it installs as a background service. If I were to quit this application right now, it would not stop the sync from running. This application that we're seeing right here is just, it's very similar to like the FileMaker Server admin console.
Okay.
It's the way that I interact with the Mirrorsync service.
So it's a Mirrorsync admin console.
It's exactly. It is a Mirrorsync admin console.
MAC. It's Mac. I like it. I got a new acronym, Mac. Time for some Mac, baby. All right.
That's a pretty overloaded acronym.
I'm making notes here, Mac. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
Yeah. Okay. But that's exactly what it is. Just like when you log out of the FileMaker Server admin console, FileMaker Server is still running. When you log out of this, Mirrorsync is still running. I could reboot the box that Mirrorsync is running on and not even log into that machine as a user, and it would still be running and syncing in the background as a service.
So, so this goes on one of our FileMaker servers. Could it go on a non-FileMaker server?
It could, yeah. So Mirrorsync, it's a Tomcat web application. And so you can install it anywhere that Tomcat can run. And Tomcat can run on virtually any device. People have installed Tomcats on like cameras and portable phones and stuff like that. We actually have, just reminded myself of a really cool use case. Marty Thomason, if you guys have been to DevCon, you might have heard Andy Lacates when he gets up on stage to talk about kind of cool ways that FileMaker is helping our world and our community. He'll often bring up Marty Thomason's project, Youth with a Mission, where they get on a hospital ship and they go around Papua New Guinea and they do they go to these tribal villages and they do medical stuff for them. And Marty's using Mirrorsync to sync between the devices that they take into the village with them and a FileMaker server that sits on board their hospital ship, which is parked off the shore. But the really cool thing, I mean, that's cool. But the thing that's really cool is that Marty actually brings a Mirrorsync server with him that he runs on a Raspberry Pi. And if you're not familiar with what a Raspberry Pi is, it's basically like a little $35 bare piece of silicon that you can hook a keyboard and a mouse up to if you want and program stuff in. So he's installed Linux on that Raspberry Pi, and he's installed Mirrorsync on it as well. So they'll just like sit that on a on a stone or something like that with a battery, sit it on a table or a rock or wherever they put it. And that has wireless access, and all of their devices sync up to that Raspberry Pi. And then they take that back on the ship with them and sync it up to the main server. So yeah, Mirrorsync will run on virtually anything, but the installers that we ship with it are designed for Windows and Mac.
Okay, cool. Okay, so if we have 3 servers right now, did we install Mirrorsync on one server, or did we install it on all 3, and why?
So the only one that is necessary to install on is one machine, and typically most people will install that on the hub. When you create a new Mirrorsync configuration, you designate one server as the hub, and sometimes it's a little bit ambiguous about which server you want the hub to. Wow, I just saw lightning outside, like really close. Yep, that's like a quarter mile away. Okay, well, if I suddenly disappear, you know why.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll typically install Mirrorsync on FileMaker Server, which is the hub, which is kind of like where most of your users connect to. My kind of rule of thumb for which machine to make the hub is that if you have multiple servers, if you were going to delete all of them except for one and then make a copy from that one to the others, which one would be the one that you keep, and then that's your hub.
Okay, so we only have to install it really on one server.
It only has to be installed on one server. Installing it on all the servers gives you some nice optional benefits. Basically, what we can do when you have so the FileMaker Server admin console does not have the ability to upload and download FileMaker databases. The admin API does not have the ability, and I've asked and asked and asked, but it's not in there. So if we want to transfer files between FileMaker servers, we have to do it using some mechanism other than what FileMaker gives us out of the box. So that's what you install Mirrorsync on the other servers for. So we've installed Mirrorsync on all of our servers, not because it's necessary, but because it allows us to automatically move our file from the hub to those spoke servers without needing to go into the FileMaker Server admin console, close the database, download it, then connect with the admin console to each spoke, upload it, and host it.
Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt right here because you're hitting on a topic. There's numerous questions going on across the line here, and they're asking about this. So you basically, for synchronization, if all you care about literally is that you're going to set up the files and they're going to talk and they're going to sync, you only need it on one machine. That's one
Yeah,
thing.
if you're gonna move the files around yourself, then you need it on one machine.
But almost no one wants to do that. So basically, we're saying that you don't have to put it on other machines, but you really need to, because that way, and we're going to demonstrate this probably tomorrow, is we're going to post a new file and it's going to push out. We could do it today. It's a small file.
Yeah, we'll do it today.
But we're going to update the size of the database so it's nice and fat for tomorrow, like right. And so the idea is more enterprisey size, and so. But today we can show that you could change the layout, change a script, change something, make a note, and then what it'll do is it'll push that out to other servers automatically and then turn them on and synchronize. It's cool. So while he says it's kind of optional, it's really not optional. You really want it. Okay? So that's an important thing. Now, Mr. Scott, I'm not sure which your Mr. Scott this is, because I know like 4 Mr. Scotts, says, would it be considered best practice for performance to have a dedicated device server for the Mirrorsync so as not to place the actual load on the actual FileMaker server?
Sorry, could you read it one more time?
The short version is are there performance consequences for sticking this stuff here on your FileMaker server? Because if this is busy and server's busy, then they're too busy for one machine, and then you got a problem. So,
if performance is critical, then yes, I would recommend putting Mirrorsync on its own separate box. When Mirrorsync, let's say like you can see right now, this sync is running every 5 seconds, and it usually takes about 4 to 5 seconds to finish. There's no changes happening, and the vast majority of that time is initiating connections to the servers around the world, and each server. So we've got, we can see it in here. I think we've got like 20 tables. I don't know. I don't have a count of them, but it looks like it's probably approximately 20 tables.
There's about 30 in the system, but you're probably not syncing them all, right? So
yeah, some of them a few of them that we skipped that Jonathan pointed out didn't really need to sync. So what's happening each time that this goes to sync is it's using the data API to kick off a script in each of these 3 locations, and each of these 3 servers then does 20 finds. It goes to the first table, our sync O2 calendar, and it'll say, has anything changed since this timestamp? No. And then it'll do the same thing here and here and here. So basically what's happening is it's doing 20 find operations every time this thing kicks in, and then coming back to Mirrorsync and say, nothing has happened since the 5 seconds ago when you asked me before. And so that puts a little bit of load on FileMaker Server, but really not much. It's 20 searches, they're indexed searches, and there's not much going on. On Mirrorsync side, similar. Very, very little activity is actually happening. But let's say that somebody went on to, somebody changed something.
That was me. Sorry, I'm over here. Everyone can see me doing evil shit. I just made a change to Alexi's. She has now her official photo in here, and she's now a FileMaker developer, which is awesome. So happy birthday, Alexi. But yeah, so that's the change, right? So perfect. Keep going. You're good.
So let's say that somebody went on and they did a find all in contacts, and there's 20,000 contacts, and they did a replace field contents on 20,000 records. Now it's going to have to churn a lot harder, because now we go to FileMaker Server and say, hey, has anything changed? And FileMaker's like, oh yeah, here, what do you know? 20,000 records. Here you go, do something with them. Now Mirrorsync needs to get those 20,000 records, write them from the one server that they're coming from to the other 2 servers that they're going to, and it needs to update its own internal database. We use HSQL, which is an open source, very, very high performance database, to keep track of which databases we've written all those changes to. And if there's 20,000 records, there's more load happening. So to get back to Mr. Scott's question, and I think I know which Mr. Scott that is, because I think he might have, well, never mind. But to get back to that question, yes, what I would recommend, if performance is super critical for you and you anticipate very heavy volume like that, where you're transferring tens or hundreds of thousands of records or maybe millions of records during a sync, I usually like to put Mirrorsync on its own separate box, separately from FileMaker Server. And my particular preference is a Linux box. We do Mirrorsync hosting for a lot of customers, and we have one dedicated Mirrorsync Linux box that has a very fast hard drive on it. And so we don't install Mirrorsync on our FileMaker servers for anything other than this automatic file upload and download stuff that I was talking to you about. We have a dedicated Linux box that we can monitor the performance on there, and then we're not dragging down like the performance on the FileMaker machines. Where Mirrorsync can get very CPU intensive is if there's a very large batch of conflicting records. Conflicts take longer, significantly longer to resolve than non-conflicting changes. So if somebody had 10,000 conflicting records on this server and somebody changed the same 10,000 records on that server, you would see the CPU definitely spike to 100% from maybe 30 seconds to 10 minutes or something like that, while Mirrorsync resolves all those conflicts, and then that would affect the performance of FileMaker Server.
Stop. You just hashed it's going to be a million questions. So before we go too much farther into conflicts, right, what I want to do is I want to ask, Tarmons has a great question. I already prepped you for this question. It's coming. You ready? Here we go. What if the Mac Hub, or the Mac Hub, that's right. It's the Mirrorsync. I love it. They're using my acronyms. Mirrorsync admin console. Awesome. Whoever that person is, you're now my favorite person today. What if that server, the Syncy server, goes down, it's broke, and so suddenly all your servers are running wild without any synciness? Can you help us with that?
Yeah. So if this admin console were to go down, nothing bad would happen. You know, I could force quit this thing right now. I think I will, just for fun. Force quit this thing. And so Mirrorsync is still just running along just fine in the background. It's still running every 5 seconds, updating all the servers, and that's going to happen whether I have that open or not.
Okay, stop.
But
what if the service dies?
If the service dies, then all those FileMaker servers are still up and running, but they're not syncing with each other. So changes that we're making in Northern Virginia are not going to California or Ireland, and vice versa.
Okay.
They will all start to accumulate kind of divergent changes, and people may not even notice for the first 5 or 10 and a half hour But then at some point, somebody's going to be like, hey, I'm making changes here, and they're not happening there. So what do you do about that? And assuming, obviously once you get Mirrorsync back up, then the syncs resume, and they'll resume exactly where they left off. So it will catch up on that next sync. It'll have a much bigger workload to do on its next sync while it catches up from that downtime, but it will not miss any of those changes. And there's, remind me when I'll try and remind myself. There's a section in the configuration screen where you can configure advanced notifications. And the advanced notifications feature allows you to use Amazon CloudWatch, which that's a whole different topic that could be a whole nother webinar, because CloudWatch is pretty awesome. But we can send notifications to CloudWatch with metrics. Like, for instance, we can tell CloudWatch, here's how long the sync took to run. Here's how many records were inserted. Here's how many records were updated, deleted, number of warnings, number of errors.
Oh, I would love that.
Users.
We have to do a video on that, right? That would be
Bytes
great.
Transferred. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. We can report that every time a sync runs. We can go to CloudWatch and give it a dump of all the stats from that sync. And then what's really cool is that you can go into CloudWatch as a developer, and you can program CloudWatch to say, hey, if you don't get any sync metrics for 20 minutes or 90 minutes or 4 hours or however long you think the longest sync might take, if you don't get anything from Mirrorsync for a 30-minute period, then I want to get a notification that you haven't gotten anything. And so that way you can actually get notified of not just when the sync is running. Mirrorsync can do that itself. There's a feature that can send you an email when a sync runs. You can actually get notifications from CloudWatch if Mirrorsync is not running. So you can configure that to know if the server has died, and then you can get back on and figure out what killed it and bring it back so everything catches up.
All right, so those are really great questions for everyone. So the answer is you can install it on one place if you, as a minimum, but you really need to install it on each of the servers. Okay, that way you can push the updates out. 2, if the main machine that's doing the syncy stuff blows up, no one dies, but the machines aren't syncing, they can continue to run. And then when you restart the syncy, I call it the syncy process, then it will catch back up, which is great. Which, once again, if you're really doing like multiple servers, you got hundreds of people, I think you just might want to pay the $12 or $30 a month or whatever it is for a T2 large or something like that. Jesse, I mean, you're an Amazon guy. What would be a sufficiently beefy Amazon instance for just the syncy stuff, like the
I
hub?
think we run ours on a T3 large.
The new ones are T3s, yeah. T3 and T3A, yeah.
And I would recommend the T class, not the M's, because Mirrorsync, while it does occasionally spike the CPU, it should never really get in a situation where it's pegging the CPU for a long period of time. So those kind of, the T classification should be fine. You're not going to use up your burst credits on those.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know what we just said, so we will remind me to cover that in another broadcast where we cover burstable Amazon instances and stuff that we've trained people on. So
yeah, basically the T class is the cheapest, and it will work great with Mirrorsync.
Yeah. Perfect. So cool. All right. So then, do you want to go through the installation? So we are looking we're looking at the server. This is the server in California somewhere, I guess, wherever that's at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
But we want to set up our 4 server, which is where we're going to set it in Mumbai, India. Is that what we're going to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to minimize this for now, and then I will switch to my RDP, and I will jump into Mumbai. Now, I did have Mirrorsync installed in this box before, but I've run the uninstaller, and so Mirrorsync is no longer on this box. If it was, you would see it right here. There would be a 360works folder. There is no 360works folder.
Okay, but FileMaker Server 19 is here, correct?
Yes, and let me jump over there. That's this admin console right here, this 1701D.
Yeah.
So this is Mumbai. Notice that the only database that we have on here is our sample file that comes with FileMaker.
Okay.
Also notice that I do have the data API enabled. Mirrorsync does rely on the data API in order to kick off the sync script.
Yep.
But this box is just, like straight plain vanilla, straight up out of the box. You just installed FileMaker Server.
Oh, I have a question. I have a question. Since you're right here, so we're using DAPI to sync, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I have so many DAPI credits. This happens to be Yeah, I'll have to tell you the story about me trying to get a site license from Claris to demonstrate this for you folks. They basically nicely said, yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna. We're not using anything from there. Claris is not in any way assisting in this broadcast today, which is unfortunate. So these are actually my credits on my company site license, right? So the question is if we're doing a lot of syncing, then this is going to run this up, and then I have to make sure I have enough credits here. I might have to buy more credits, right?
Let me check. The short answer is no.
Really?
But let me see if I can prove that to you. I'm not sure if I can.
Well, you don't have to prove it. It's just.
Yeah, here we go. This sync has been running every 5 seconds all weekend long. The total data transmit. This is Ireland now. We're looking at the Ireland server. The total data transmitted by this host is 4.5 megabytes, which is basically zero.
Right, but it's also not in use by too many people. My point is, it is deducting. It's just what I'm saying is, you should pay attention to it. You should pay attention to it as opposed to ignore it.
You should pay attention to it, but I can almost guarantee that Mirrorsync will not use up your data bandwidth. And the reason for that is because Mirrorsync doesn't do any syncing using data API, which is a weird statement, and it sounds like I'm being contradictory. But what's actually happening is Mirrorsync is only using the data API to start a script. That's the Mirrorsync script. The Mirrorsync script then uses insert from URL to talk back to the Mirrorsync server.
Oh, you're kidding. You're kidding.
So,
you totally... okay.
Yeah, so the data that goes back and forth, the real heavy-duty actual record data, is transferring between FileMaker server and Mirrorsync using the insert from URL, which does not count against any of your data API bandwidth. So when that sync finishes, it will return like 1 kilobyte of data going, hey, the script ran. It doesn't even return that actually. It's basically like an empty header saying 200 HTTP status code.
I'm clapping because you're impressive and that's sufficiently awesome. I don't know about anyone else. Anyone clapping out there? Everyone's quiet. I think they are dead or something. Alexi probably went face down into a giant birthday cake and is on a sugar overload. So,
and honestly, I really didn't do this to try to get around FileMaker's data.
Well, no, I listen. I want them to make money and I want them to be happy.
Yeah.
But if you're not on their Christmas card list now, I know why. So yeah.
The reason I did this is because we have far more control over the streaming behavior than if we directly interacted with the data API. Using the insert from URL, we can break the data into little small chunks and stream it to ourselves. Whereas with the data API, you have to use the next behavior paging stuff, and there's various kind of performance problems with that. So this allows us, as a side effect, to not run up the data API usage, but the real benefit here is that we can actually stream an unlimited amount of record data without running out of memory.
Yep. I thought it was quite impressive. Okay, good. Well, like I said, I always learn new things. That's a good one. Yeah, it seems to me insert from URL is way more tested and way more reliable than the DAPI. So okay, cool.
Yeah, and you can use all the curl options. You can use
they really beefed it out big time. It's been the favorite play toy for the last couple of years for all the developers. So
yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, so let's actually do
keep going. And Alexi says she's clapping. She's not eating cake, which is good because she could never I don't know if she sell ice skates or not, but she would.
It's her birthday. She's supposed to eat cake.
Okay. Yeah, but ice skaters don't eat cake, man. I'm telling you.
We're looking back on at the Mumbai server. Notice that we don't have FileMaker starting point on the server, and notice that we don't have Mirrorsync installed in here. So let's just do this from scratch. Now I do have one thing that's already done that I didn't want to undo, which is I've already set up my DNS. Remember yesterday I talked about how to set up kind of that DNS kind of cluster so that
the super DNS thing. Yeah, we're going to demo that tomorrow for everyone because today we're setting up a server. Tomorrow we're going to set it up again, but we're even going to go deeper. So we're getting 2 server deploy days for everyone. So yeah.
So Mirrorsync is not installed in the Mumbai server, but it is part of our kind of FMSP.360works DNS cluster. So I'm going to the Mirrorsync page, 360works.com/FileMaker-sync. You can also type in mirrorsync.com, which is what I just did. I'm going to download the current version. Notice that I'm not doing any of this download buy stuff because I don't need a license key on my spoke servers. The only machine that you need to buy a license for is your hub server. So when I go to install Mirrorsync on this Mumbai server, which is a spoke, It's not going to ask me for a license key. The only reason I need to install it is just to move the files around. So I've downloaded it. I'm going to just do my normal kind of extract and install. And the installation might take 2 or 3 minutes, so that would be a good time if there's questions to switch to a few questions.
Well, Alexi says, hell no on the cake, and she's still skating, which is pretty cool. Ken, TK, all the folks on Discord. Hyder is from somewhere, and he just deleted his message. I didn't get to see it. Alessandro, hi to all. Dennis from Vancouver. Once again, everyone have questions. Ask time for questions. As we stare at the installation. That's fine.
I'm just picking all the standard options right here.
And allow Mirrorsync to report. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when you check that box, then we can know how fast Mirrorsync does or doesn't run, that kind of stuff. Okay. And the username and password that I set there, that doesn't need to match anything in particular. It's just I need to use that username and password if I ever need to administer Mirrorsync, which I won't in this case because it's a spoke server.
It's a spoke.
So there's nothing to administer on it.
If a spoke has a problem, does it report itself back to the hub, or how does that work?
Yeah, if the hub cannot communicate with the spoke server, then that will cause an error in the sync, and you're able to, I'll show you in the configuration where you can set email notifications. So you can get a notification if a spoke is unavailable.
Okay, so right along that line, so between the hub and the spoke, we're moving traffic back and forth, kind of, but I haven't, my brain, I haven't quite, I understood the insert from URL, but it's almost like,
it's a really backwards process. Essentially, here's the best way to think about it. The best way to think about it is we're making FileMaker Server work exactly like FileMaker Client.
Whoa. Oh, so you're using the PSOS on the server to do the...
No, we use a data API execute script call.
Okay. But execute a script, but what is executing the script? What client is executing?
So basically, let's first talk about how Mirrorsync works on a client like FileMaker Pro or Go.
Yeah.
If you've got FileMaker on an iPad,
yes,
you click the Mirrorsync button, and
yes,
that kicks off the Mirrorsync script, which then uses insert from URL to have a conversation with the Mirrorsync server to move data back and forth, right? That makes sense.
Yep.
When we call Mirrorsync on the server, we're basically just using the data API to virtually reach out and press the Mirrorsync button.
Okay.
That's all that's really happening, is that we're saying run this Mirrorsync script as if the user had clicked it on their FileMaker Go or Pro copy. And as far as the data APIs, we pass it I don't even know if we pass it any parameters. Oh yeah, we pass a few parameters in.
So so you're telling the web publishing engine to run the script for you is what you're telling. Is that what
yes,
do I have that?
We're telling the web publish engine to simulate a button click
on a client, and so you use DAPI to trigger that. Got it.
Yes.
Because when we do our stuff, part of doing basic push and pulls with PHP and stuff like that is you have the option to trip a script. So that's the main mechanism you're using. Got it.
Yep. And when we're doing it with multiple spokes, like in this case, between these 3 servers, we're using the data API to simultaneously send a signal to all 3 servers, making them all essentially kind of click that button at the same time. And then Mirrorsync will mediate between them and make sure that they all get the right data for each one.
Okay, so if the web publishing, because this is going to get to my question, I was going to ask about what was the port numbers between on this communication, but it's really the web publishing engine running a script, but the web publishing engine is basically a client, so the port number is 5003 then, right? Yes?
It's going to be 443 because we're using the data API.
Oh, that's right. Insert from URL, and it's encrypted. Yeah, 443. So that port has to be open. Got it.
Yes. Okay. On both Mirrorsync and FileMaker Server, because Mirrorsync needs to initiate a connection to the remote server on port 443 to say, hey, could you start the script running? And then that remote server is going to initiate a connection back to Mirrorsync on port 443 saying, hey, I want to sync. So each one is initiating a connection to the other.
Wow. Okay. I just now caught up with that. That's pretty clever. Michael Manos, I think he's one of your customers. Can Jesse explain the newest ability of sync to sync multiple spokes versus having multiple configuration files?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's actually best done in a demo. And so that's actually getting to the next. That's the next thing I was going to demo.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show that right now.
Okay.
So. And I might have. Oh, that's right. I had minimized it. I just quit it now. Oh,
Okay,
great.
so hey, so Mr. Scott, we'll get to you in a moment. We're just going to shelve that one for a second because I can't have his Jesse will blow up. So
And Michael, I think I remember talking to you about this on our tech support when you asked me that question about multiple configurations versus a single configuration. And at the time, we didn't have the ability to run multiple spokes in a single configuration. And so I told you just set up multiple different configurations, each one as a single pair. So what we could do here is we could have one configuration. So this FMSP right here, this is. Oh, did I disappear?
no, you're still here. You're still here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just muted I just
my
muted
Slack thing disappeared, so I thought I was gone.
No,
So I'm
no, you're
gonna-
fine.
So here is a configuration, and that FMSP. One thing you could do is you could create. If I have 3 spoke servers, I could create 3 configurations, and each one could be Northern California to the East Coast, and then a second configuration, Northern California to Ireland, and then a third configuration, Northern California to Mumbai. But what is working now is a single configuration with multiple spokes. I'm going to turn off the autosync. And this is the part that I was working on so hard last week. And this is the part where Richard told all of you, Jesse's working really hard, send him a nice email. And I got like a dozen emails from people saying, hang in there, keep going. And that was really nice. And it actually really did make me feel good. So
Don't give up on life. Well, listen, when we train every day, it's really funny because Claris and a lot of every day we're here, right? And a lot of the senior people and stuff don't. That's fine, but people want to learn this stuff, and if they feel like you're having a hard time and you're going to give up on life, then we're going to help you out. Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. It felt really good. So thank you guys for sending me an email. Thanks. And I could just picture Richard saying, hey, go bug Jesse. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to edit this configuration and show you kind of what the configuration process looks like. And I'm going to add the Mumbai server. So here's our first screen of the configuration. What is our hub database? And these are all the databases that we support. FileMaker Server. We can support any JDBC database. This is what you would use for instance, if you were syncing PostgreSQL, is that you would pick the JDBC database option, and then you would fill in all the JDBC options for Postgres. Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, Salesforce, Amazon Redshift, and you won't see it in this screen because it can only be a spoke, but we also support Amazon DynamoDB. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this screen because we've only got 15 minutes left, and I've got a lot of other things I want to show still. So I'm just going to kind of, if there's a particular highlight on the screen,
we can go another.
Most part,
we can go another 30 minutes, right? And
okay.
We are flexible here. I mean, I know some of you have a hard stop at the top of the hour, but it is recorded, so yeah.
And I'll spend more time, I think, tomorrow on the actual configuration. For now, I'm just going to kind of quickly move through this stuff. So this is our hub screen where we tell Mirrorsync, here is where our hub server is. This is our Northern California server, which is our hub. And here's the username and the password for our database, the username and password for FileMaker Server Admin Console. We can click choose to see a list of the databases. And so that's that. The next screen that it's going to come up with is telling us, hey, you need to create a layout for each table that you want to sync. And to paraphrase what's all the instructions on the screen, you just create a layout. The layout can be totally blank. There just needs to be a layout because it's a script kind of a context to run on. But you do need to have, every table needs 3 fields: a primary key, which you probably already have, a creation timestamp, which you probably already have, and a modification timestamp, which you probably already have. So for the most part, there's really not anything to do as far as adding fields to your solution. There's no specific naming that there needs to be. You can have them named whatever you want. If you create a new FileMaker table in FileMaker 17 or later, it's going to have all of these things out of the box. So, this was something that we really tried hard to do in Mirrorsync, is not make you add fields. So make sure you have those fields, create a blank layout. Now we tell about the spoke database. And here I've got the spoke as B, which is the East Coast, Northern Virginia. And I'll get to the other spokes in just a second. But you can see this list is the same down here. But you can see DynamoDB is also a choice now because DynamoDB can't be a hub. It can only be a spoke, and that has to do with the fact that it's a no SQL database that has no schema. So we've told it about our database on the East Coast. So now I click Next. And then I think I'll get a screen just like the last one telling me, actually, I don't, Oh, there is a screen that would normally pop up asking you to copy and paste a few items. I've already done those copy and paste operations, so it's going to skip them. There's basically one table for you to copy and paste. There's one script folder for you to copy and paste. And there's one layout where you just select all, copy, go to another layout, paste. That's the entire process of what you do as far as like dropping Mirrorsync stuff in. So that's pretty easy. Now we get to the question at hand that Michael was asking about what about multiple spokes and that kind of configuration. So you can see that we've got two spokes in this configuration. We've got B and we've got C. B is the one we just configured. C is Ireland. And I can see that if I edit the spoke, I can see that 1701C, which is my Ireland spoke. And I'm going to add another one now. And this is new. This was, you couldn't do this in Mirrorsync last week. If you still can't do it in Mirrorsync, I don't know. That OK button is not very promising right now. There we go.
Okay, so I ran to write that down. The OK button is not very promising. Nathan Schneider, are you there? You got to write that down. The OK button is not very promising. All right, good. Famous quotes that get saved by the people that are in the training here. So Nick Hunter's known for hurting the laws, or hurting Mother Nature, right? Which was always a good one. So yes, I'm going to temporarily turn off my screen share because I don't want to. Richard set this password. I don't want to reveal this password. So I'm going to continue on my microphone, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment. We can play Jeopardy music or something. So.
I'm going to go get that password. If I can find, oh, come on, Jesse. Where is that password?
It's in the email that I sent you.
Yeah.
Tech support is on the job.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be even better because we keep upping the ante every day on this. And I don't know what Jesse's doing Friday. If he's bored on Friday, we might drag his ass back here too. So
I'm taking it easy on Friday.
All right, well, then we're going to talk about you and your product behind your back. You don't have to show up.
That's fine. All right, so I've got it on my clipboard. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to show my screen. I think I'm going to show, there's my screen button. All right, so I got it on my clipboard. I'll paste
there we go. Now we're here. All right, we
pick
see
my
it.
database. Now this is something I'm still working on. At the moment, you do need to type in your database name. Okay, so now I've told it about the Mumbai server. This is where the server is. This is the username and password for the database. This is the username and password for the admin console. This is the name of the database that I want to sync. We are syncing with kind of just identical field and table names. Mirrorsync does have the capability to actually sync between totally different databases, which is cool, but I'm not going to demo it now. I've actually demoed before FileMaker Starting Point syncing with the built-in contacts out of the box thing that comes with FileMaker, which is pretty wild. I'll need to figure out why this OK button takes so long. I'm going to put that on my notes here. All right, noted. All right, so now I have 3 spokes. I've got my hub plus these 3 spokes. And so here is where I pick which tables I want to sync. In previous versions of Mirrorsync, you would go down and you would check the boxes of all the tables that you wanted to sync. Starting in Mirrorsync 6, we now have this option here. This is sync any layout starting with sync underscore. So it'll automatically find any layout that you name sync underscore something and assume that that layout needs to be synced. And a really cool feature there is it means that you can actually add new tables and new layouts just by naming the layout that thing. You don't even need to, this is awesome, I think, but you don't even need to come back into Mirrorsync when you add new tables. You just make sure you got your primary key, your modification timestamp, your creation timestamp, make a new layout named sync underscore, and Mirrorsync will find it and it'll add it to the sync and include it. This is the most interesting screen in the configuration. So this is the only one that I really spend much time on. This is my email address, and so I will get an email anytime a failure occurs. If I want to get no emails ever, I can do that. If I want to get them on failures and warnings, I can do that. If I want to get super detailed emails every time the sync runs, I can do that. So you can pick whatever you want.
Okay. I'm just going to interrupt because we are getting questions about this screen. Instead of me answering them, they're answering about how do we control certain found sets and things like that and whatever. And so,
okay. I think we've got enough time to spend a couple minutes on that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Um,
listen, like we don't really have a hard stop here. It's, people
okay,
will eject if they get tired of you and me, and that's fine because,
okay,
I'll refund what they paid to get in here today, so that's fine.
okay. Fair enough. So the answer to that particular question, how do you sync to certain records? Let me show that to you really quickly. I will go to I'll go to the Northern California server. I'm going to show you the Mirrorsync script. And so if we look at the Mirrorsync script, this gets pasted in when you set up Mirrorsync, and there's nothing you have to change about this script other than this section right here, this URL. So you paste the whole script, and then you customize line 6. If you want to, you can come down to this section right here, customization instructions, and you can do a lot of things that will control how the sync runs. And by far, the thing that people do the most to is this find changes section. So find changes filters which records will be synced. So here's what it would look like. If you want, and this is commented out because these tables don't actually exist, but I'll uncomment them temporarily just to show you what it would look like. You say, if the layout is equal to whatever, sync_05 contacts, then you enter the find mode, find whatever it is that you want to search for, and then constrain the found set. And that's it. That's all you need to do. The get account name, which is a very common thing that people want to filter by, will return the account name of the user doing the sync, because when Mirrorsync kicks off that script with the data API, if Richard is the one syncing, it's going to use Richard's username and password to kick off that script. So get account name will return Richard. And then you can say, find all the records where the current assigned person is Richard. You could do things like find all the records that have been created in the last 30 days. Find all the records that are status active. And a really cool thing is that any records that don't meet that criteria, if there's records in there for Jesse, for instance, A, they won't be synced, and B, they'll actually get deleted off of Richard's iPad if they don't match that. So if the record status is active and Richard, he does his job, and then he's done with the job, and he changes it to done, and then he clicks sync, that goes up to the server, and it syncs to the server, and the next time he hits sync, that record will no longer match that criteria, and it will remove that record from his iPad because that doesn't match the filter criteria anymore on the server. So the iPad found set is always being updated with whatever find criteria you, the FileMaker developer, program here, and it's just using regular FileMaker scripting. We used to use SQL qualifiers to do that and stuff. That was slow and clunky. So now we exclusively just use FileMaker level scripting to accomplish that.
All right, people are happy with these answers. They're really great. They love it. Answered that. Yeah, I think the questions are coming. Good job, Jesse. Keep
awesome.
going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to save anything. I'll probably screw something up. Okay, so back here, ordinarily I don't demo this, but I mentioned it, so I wanted to bring it up. This is where you would put in, if you wanted to do that CloudWatch feature I was talking about, this is where you would do it in this advanced notification section. You would put in your access key, your secret key, the region where you want CloudWatch to report from. And then you would say, I want to know the duration, the number of failures that happen, and any records that were deleted from the hub. And so by checking those boxes and filling in this AWS access key stuff, those 3 numeric values will be recorded to CloudWatch every time this runs, and you can get a nice little dashboard of kind of seeing how long the syncs take on average, seeing how many records are being inserted or deleted, and you can program it in to notify you if it's not getting data from Mirrorsync, perhaps indicating that there's something wrong and the sync is stopped. All right, I got to turn these off. So that's that. We've done this. The auto detect database keys or manual key setup. Mirrorsync is really good in version 6 about finding your primary keys, creation timestamps, and modification timestamps. If you want to customize those or just double check that they're being set correctly, you can change this to manual key setup, and then Mirrorsync will prompt you for all of them. But I usually just leave it set on auto. I'm going to come back to this checkbox. Don't let me leave this screen without showing that checkbox. This is your sync direction. This is a bidirectional sync. This is one way from the hub to the spokes. So if you just wanted to push changes out to the spokes, This is one way from the spoke to the hub, which probably is not useful for a server-to-server sync, but it could be very useful if you're doing data collection in the field with phones or tablets. And you just want to collect the data and push it up to the server. This primary key matching here, you would pick Mirrorsync managed if your primary keys are based on serial numbers. You would pick developer managed if they're based on UUIDs. The fundamental under the hood difference between those is that with UUIDs and developer managed keys, we keep the primary keys the same between devices. So if your UUID is ABCD on this database, then when we write it to the other database, it's still going to be ABCD. With Mirrorsync managed, if your primary key is 5, and we go to write to the other database and there's already a primary key 5 on there, it might be 6, or it might be 600, or it might be whatever. And Mirrorsync will manage that. It knows that going forward in time, any changes made to 5 on database 1 should be made to record 6 on database 2. And that's kind of a deep topic that there's usually a lot of questions about that, because I'm sure the questions are are occurring right now. Wait, that's not gonna work.
Yeah,
it really does work.
No, and so this comes back to this conversation real quick. So people what the hell is starting point? I got people saying, we want enterprise, we want the enterprise, and it's like, okay, stop. So if you're learning the FileMaker platform, like some of you are learning, okay, you don't need the enterprise version of starting point. All we did with the enterprise version was change the primary keys to use UUID. So UUID is this 32 character random scrambled thing that is always random, right? And if you're learning FileMaker and you're trying to see how relationships connect, if I try to teach you 100 matches 100 over here, or a 32 scrambled thing equals that, as a trainer, that's a hard conversation to have. And so starting point, the basic one, you would use it over here, but the problem is you could end up having you'd issue an invoice to someone. I give sales guy does an invoice for $5,000 to someone, and the invoice is number 100, but after the sync, the invoice number might change, right? So that's kind of an unsavory situation. And so if you're going to really use sync, you need to think about using UUIDs. Jesse has been on my ass to make this version of starting point for over a year.
I really have.
And
it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, and I finally saw the light. And so but the thing is, my problem is it makes for a hard training situation. So we really have the basic one, which we know works great. It'll work on a single server up to several hundred people. Almost no one needs this unless you're going to seriously do an enterprise rollout with multiple servers. And then by all means, or you're a more senior developer, like you're an Alexi Folger, Dwayne Mossy, the Keith LaRochelle, all the guys from PCI, all the senior people that are out in the FileMaker community. They're already used to using UUID, so that's fine. Use that, right? But it's just kind of where are you at? We have for Jesse. For those of you who kind of wonder about this, we have a number of people that come here who are doing basic FileMaker training, and so one of them is named Bunny, right? And so this is Bunny. So when we do Bunny training, this is beginner training, like this is a field, there's a layout, there's a relationship. And so when we do basic training, we make sure it's Bunny Basic certified, right? And literally that's his name, right? And so it's cool because we switch hits, but we switch hit between the advanced topics to beginning topics. And so there really is kind of, I had 2 people ask me for the enterprise version yesterday, and I don't know that they need it. I'll be happy to give it to them. It's no charge, it's free. But if you're going to do Mirrorsync, definitely want to use that version.
I would definitely recommend the enterprise version if you're planning on using Mirrorsync with it.
Yeah. I thought these two things go together like peanut and butter or whatever, bread, and, or like Richard and Jesse, right?
There you go. Which one of us is the peanut? Which one of us is the butter?
Yeah, no, just stop the conversation right there before it becomes unsafe for a work.
All right. So now we get down to here, you have the choice of this default value is just sync everything. Every table, we automatically skip calc, summaries, and globals, but we'll sync all of the other fields in the table. You have the choice if you would like to, which this probably doesn't make sense for a server-to-server sync, but let's say you're doing a really light mobile database that only has a handful of fields. In that case, you would add your handful of fields to that sync layout that we talked about creating, and you would switch this to say, I'll sync only the fields in that layout. And then instead of 100 fields, you would get the 8 that mobile user needs. So I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to talk more about field merging tomorrow when we get to conflict resolution, and the same thing with this conflict thing. But basically, the really short version, which I'll go into more detail with, is that if you pick this merge changes option, then Mirrorsync will merge the changes together. So if one user changes somebody's email address and another user on the same record changes their phone number, Mirrorsync will merge those together. So you'll get one record that has the latest email and phone number merged. And then conflict resolution, the default value is the most recent change wins. So if a record can't be merged because maybe we both changed the email address on the same record, then Mirrorsync will, by default, assume that whichever user changed it last is the correct one. But I will talk about other options besides that. That's just the out-of-the-box default. Oh, and I didn't show that checkbox that I wanted. No, it wasn't your fault. I clicked the button too fast.
Yep.
But
in between here, I'm going to give Nathan Schneider is endorsing this. He says, my experience with this new version of Mirrorsync has been great because if no changes, the physical time we're detecting. Okay, your English, either I can't read or your English just went off a cliff.
I can tell you, Nathan beats the hell out of conflict resolution. I would say half of my conflict resolution issues are from Nathan.
Okay. Anyway, but yeah, he highly endorses the Mirrorsync 6 because you rewrote this thing, right? I mean, listen, this interface. I recognize this interface. This interface hasn't changed much in 5 years, but you're saying the under the hood is new.
Yeah, the field selection is new. This second row of buttons, because you didn't the previous versions of Mirrorsync always sync the fields in the layout. This new sync all fields is new, but all the rest of this is the same. On the surface, but yes, it's the script is completely rewritten under the hood for version 6.
Okay.
This is the checkbox I wanted to show. The same settings for all tables. Oh, come on.
Did you?
Oh, okay. That's a bug. I need to fix that. I almost got away with it because I forgot.
Okay, sorry. All right, sorry. We're gonna have to avert everyone's eyes.
I'm gonna talk through.
Shh, you didn't see anything. Shh, there's a bug.
I'm gonna pull a Steve Jobs and throw my digital camera at the front row.
Okay. I'm blocking. I'm blocking the screen. No one can see you if you want to fix it. Right. So
what's supposed to happen here is that and bugs happen. I'm not fussed about it. I'll fix it. The point is that what's supposed to happen here is you're supposed to see a row for every single table that we're syncing. And so basically what it lets you do is pick a direction, primary key, field selection, field merging, and conflicts for each individual table. So if you want most of your tables to be bidirectional, but 3 of them to be one way, and then 1 of them to be Mirrorsync managed, and 1 of them to only sync the fields in the layout, and some of them resolve conflicts differently than others, you can uncheck that box and you can set all the settings individually for each table separately. Oh, I know what happened. I canceled this as I was going through it. I think that's actually what I need to know to reproduce that bug. I'm gonna try and go a little faster because I don't want to waste too much time. But I think the reason that happened is because I hit cancel when I was going to the next screen, and I don't normally test that way. I think that left it kind of in a half-finished state.
Well, I'm not blocking the screen right now. If you want me to like put up a curtain or something, you got to let me know.
No, I've experienced enough bugs that I don't get too fussed about them anymore. Yeah, it was the cancel button. All right. So this is what it's supposed to look like. And you can see each of these tables lets you set the direction, the primary keys, the field merging, and the conflict resolution options independently. So now when I click next, this step takes a little bit of time because what's happening here is that Mirrorsync is going to all 20 or 30 tables or so and running a pretty involved script on each one of them to figure out what is your primary key, what is your creation timestamp, what is your modification timestamp, which fields are writable and which ones aren't, what are all the different field types, do they have auto-entered serial numbers on them, and it does all that by creating 1 or 2 temporary records and basically experimenting with them and setting different fields to see what happens to the other fields and seeing if validation errors occur, seeing which timestamps change, and it does all that to basically kind of auto-detect your modification timestamps and creation timestamps.
All right, I do have a question. Alexi here is probably really mad at me. This does happen because of all the stuff that goes on here, because I'm playing production. It's like, production engineer and also talking head. So Alexi has a question, and she tried to remind me, and I didn't see it. So she says, do you recommend a DB user account specifically for Mirrorsync? ? Full access ?
For the setup, yes. For that first screen that we showed where you pick the hub username and password, yes. However, and we didn't get this, I don't think we got this pop-up for the server-to-server sync, but if I had been doing a client-to-server sync, you would have seen a different radio button on the spoke selection screen. And you have a choice there in that radio button selection screen of authenticate as the individual user or authenticate with the same credentials that you used for the hub. So if you wanted to never have to prompt the users to enter their username and password, that's how you would do it, is you would pick that radio button option, and that would work the way Alexei is asking, is that it would use the single username and password that you configured Mirrorsync with to also do the actual syncs. I don't recommend it because then you can't do any sort of effective record level access stuff. You don't, all your modified by account names are going to show as that shared account. And you're not going to be able to do like any sort of validation on a per record basis or per user basis. You won't be able to use the get account name function if you want to filter records on a per user basis. These are mostly concerns that apply to client to server syncs. If you're doing a server to server sync, then yes, I would just say create a separate username and password just for Mirrorsync and do that. And you should do that anyway, because you should do that for the configuration process, because Mirrorsync needs to have a username and password that it uses to do all the things it's doing right now. Like when it ran that script to find the primary keys, it did that using the account that you set up for it. So yes, I guess I kind of answered a little bit out of order. Create a separate Mirrorsync account, and it's fine if it's full access, or maybe even just data entry as only is also fine. Make sure you enable the FM REST extended privilege. I forgot to mention that because you need that FM REST extended privilege in order to use the data API, so make sure you have that turned on. I don't think that's turned on by default.
Yep, I got hammered on that the other day. We left it off on something, and we couldn't figure out why we couldn't make something work. It only took like a whole day of us thinking that there was a bug in FileMaker, and it was just stupid developers, myself mostly, going, oh, extended privilege, oh my God. So
because you expect that when you create a full access account that basically everything is enabled. But
yeah, that's the thing. I have to. Yeah, it doesn't. In fact, when you create a full access account, a lot of stuff is off.
yeah, right. But for server to server syncs, I think you can use that. I guess for server to server syncs, you can use the same account that you create for the configuration process to also be the account that you synchronize with, because you're not dealing with multiple different users. You don't need to filter things by user and that kind of stuff. So this is the last screen of the configuration. This is new in Mirrorsync 6. If you have a multi-file solution, you can do this. You can select additional databases, and it will go. And these servers only have this solution hosted on them, so this is the only thing that shows up. But if you have a multi-file solution, you can do that, and you can check a box next to all the files that go with your solution. And then when that file either gets transferred to another server or downloaded for an end user, it will zip that up and send a zip archive down with all the files in it. And then this doesn't really make sense yet because I haven't demoed server to server updates yet, and that's going to be on the thing for either tomorrow or the day after. But Mirrorsync has this ability to push a new version from the hub to the spokes, and here's where you can control when that's allowed to happen. By default, this is the choice. And so by default, Mirrorsync will only do it between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. in whatever time zone Mirrorsync is running in, which in this case on my computer is Eastern time. But you, for demo purposes, I set it to any time, but you can use that so that you're not suddenly taking the server down in Ireland to replace that version with a new version from the hub in the middle of the day while people are working on it. That's what that's for. So I'm going to leave this set to any time, and now we're finished.
Cool.
And so this is important to read here. If Mirrorsync is installed on both the hub and spoke servers, that's the optional installation thing I was talking about. You can just click the sync button to run the initial sync. Mirrorsync will automatically copy the database from the hub to the spoke server. So let's try that.
This is that.
I have autosync off.
This is that pushing of updates and changes, right? So. Yeah,
this is the part that I was killing myself on last week. So it's working and it's cool. Well, I shouldn't say it's working until I actually show it working. I shouldn't get ahead of myself here. But here's the Mumbai server, the 1701D. All I've got in there is my FM server sample. All I've done on that box is install FileMaker Server, or actually Jacob installed FileMaker Server for me from RCC. All I did in the box was install Mirrorsync. I didn't copy any files over to it. I didn't run any configuration stuff on it. I didn't change anything on it. I just installed Mirrorsync. So let's give this a shot now. So I'm going to click sync now, and this actually goes fairly quickly once it starts copying. So spokes, B, C, where's D? I did, oh, shoot. Oh, I don't want to waste every, you know what happened? When I canceled that, and
Just
then
go
I exited the
fix it.
config and ran through, okay, should I, all right.
Just go fix it.
I'll go fix it. So let me explain what happened. I did it the first time I did it. I added that Mumbai server, but then I canceled out of that whole thing because I had messed it up. And then I was in a hurry to get back to that screen, and I just rushed through everything and didn't add the Mumbai server again. So let me do that. Someone's been changing a lot of records.
Sorry, I have an automatic part of the starting point over the last year or two. We have it's called a mock data generator, and I've have it created about 100, 200 records throughout the system. It creates simulated real records like a human would type it.
Cool.
And so,
it's working.
Well, yeah, I run it for weeks at a time, and it generates 15 gigs of data. So that's what we're going to be playing with tomorrow, right? But it's really slow. It's not it literally goes to field, and it's like typing like a person, right? So it's
right.
So
it's cool. We're getting to see how this works.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I haven't added that much to it. I think there's. Let me see. What's it doing? Writing. So 106 records, 1,600 records. That sounds about right. So
yeah.
But so this is the whole idea of it being offline, then catching up, I guess, right?
Yeah. So here, now we can see what just happened. We wrote 24 records.
That's the mock data generator.
We'll see all these doubled.
Yep.
We'll see all these doubled because there's two spokes. So we wrote 24 insertions to one spoke, 24 insertions to another spoke, 91 insertions on notes, 91 insertions on notes, 37 in contacts, and then 165 in invoices.
So you think I'm sleeping over here? I'm actually helping you out.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you for
just remember, just remember, everyone, that you got the amazing sale on this. You want to make sure you buy it before Sunday night or something?
Yeah, Sunday night. So I'm going to, as quickly as I can, add Mumbai to the sync and not cancel it this time, and then show you guys how that automatic file distribution works. And then I think we probably should wrap up because now we're quite over time.
Yeah, we're horrible people. We're bad people.
1701D. And I think I still have that same thing on my clipboard. Let's hope I do.
By the way, as a reminder to everyone that on Thursday we're going to be giving you access to everyone. In fact, we're going to ask as many people. Jesse, you need to send a reminder out to everyone, and we're going to give them access, a launcher file, so they can open up the system and edit records and play with it worldwide, and we can kind of see.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
That would be really cool. So.
And again, this is going to be our slowest process because it's, again, it's checking and finding all that metadata between the servers, and it's doing it now not on just 2 servers, but 3 servers. Do we have any unanswered questions, or are we caught up on questions?
Well, I think Alexi got mad and left. Probably had a hard stop at 2 o'clock. A lot of people have a hard stop, but that's why we have a recording, and we'll cut it down. All the stupid stuff will get cut out. The part where you malfunctioned. Well, actually, probably won't because it's educational for people to learn that. Tanya was asking about the data separation model and how you configure it. I mean, all it is you're just configuring certain files to update and certain UI files to not update unless you want them to update.
So that data separation model, if we're talking about server-to-server syncs, I would just go ahead and copy both the interface file and the data file. In that section, in this screen right here, you would select additional databases and just check both the UI file and the data file. You might be able to make it work with just the interface file. I know that's the whole premise behind the data separation model.
Yeah, good luck with that, baby.
But I think you might run into problems. I'm not sure. I haven't experimented with that.
Well, all I could tell you is that we don't use the separation model with Starting Point, and because it's designed with lean design from Nick Hunter, it is super high performance, right? Without the Mirrorsync. With Mirrorsync, now it's enterprise grade material. So you take Nick,
so this is promising.
Hunter, and Jesse. Yeah, there we go. There's the D.
So now my spoke is showing B, C, and D. Now I'm going to run my sync.
Okay.
And here's my spokes, B, C, and D. Look, this is new. Preparing to move database over network from hub to spoke, 1701D. So it sees that the database already exists in B and C, but it knows that it needs to move it from D. Now it made a copy of the database on the hub and is pushing it up to the spoke, 61% of the way done. And another thing, which this is hard to demo because I already have the database on 2 of the servers, but this is a multi-threaded push, which means that if this is the first time I was running this sync and it didn't exist on any of these servers, it would actually push the database to all 3 simultaneously. It doesn't push it to one and then push it to the other and then push it to the other. It pushes it to all 3 at the same time. So whichever one is the slowest one is how long it'll take, not all 3 of them combined together. So it pushed that up to establish the database connection.
And Alexi's still here, which is awesome. I was afraid I missed, because she was trying to go, hey, attention, Richard, but if you listen, it looks like NASA in here. I'm surrounded by displays, and I missed her nice little blinky question indicator. Yep.
This stuff you're seeing right here, setting up sync database, this is stuff that happens during that initial sync. So that you'll only see that the first time that
okay, so once you get this running, let me know, and then I'm going to start my data generator again. And
okay, it's almost done.
Okay, well, then it'll get to a point where it's like, yeah, now it just does nothing to sync, right? It's all synced.
Yeah, it takes a little longer than normal on the first sync, but that's done. That took 94 seconds for everything. So if I jump over to Mumbai now, here's our new database.
Oh, there it is.
There's FMSP. So that got pushed from the Northern California. So basically what happened is Mirrorsync running in Northern California went to using the FMS admin command line tool, paused the database, copied the database, resumed the database, and then compressed the database, streamed it to Mirrorsync running on the Mumbai server. Mirrorsync on the Mumbai server streamed it to disk in Mumbai, then decompressed it, then used FMS admin to host that file. So now it's up and running in Mumbai. That's all stuff you could have done manually, but if you have Mirrorsync installed on all your spoke servers, that's all stuff that you can skip doing.
Well, make sure you enable the sync. I don't know if you enabled it with the little checkbox.
I did not turn on the auto sync. Let's go ahead and turn that on.
Well, then it's not going to do its job, so you need it going, because it's my mock data generator is typing away here, adding records to the system. So.
All right.
So anyway, yeah, so that's pretty cool. Well, we're going to have to, tomorrow we're going to run through, we're going to build another server with more options, with more conversation, and then and we'll see how far we want to go, and then we'll see, we'll make sure we get everyone's questions answered. And then, like I said, just so you know, I held Friday open as a reserve day in the event it blew up. If you're gonna be out and gone, that's fine, Jesse. We can talk about your stuff behind your back, which is totally good. Or if you want to send your one of your minions, the evil minions from 360 Works, to come and hang out with us, that's fine. But the idea is that we were trying to play with just letting people get into the databases and play and put records in there. We're going to do that on Thursday, and so many people can come in and add records and do this. And so there it goes. It's actually syncing data now. It's doing triple syncs, right? So
yeah, it's syncing. You're exactly right. It's syncing each record from the hub to those 3 different spokes.
Okay, and it looks like it.
And it's just going to run every 5 seconds.
Right, and so then I'm creating, and it'll be, so this is actually more of a realistic scenario, because I got that the mock data generators, and they're like, someone sitting there, beating on the keyboard. It doesn't create that many records, but it puts some appropriate dates. It puts, Pig Latin notes in there, so it's like notes and pictures of people, and just really, we made it try to be as human as possible. So, that's great. I love it. So now it's actually...
Yeah, it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, it's actually, you get to see it happening in real time. So what is when I see that progress, it says 351 out of, like this thing here. So it's... Is that like
that's on a... It's slightly confusing, because we don't know until we get to a particular table how many records there are. So we can't really show an overall progress bar of all the records. We get to the first table and we're like, oh, there's 36 records in here. So we show a progress bar that's like 36 items long. Then we get to the next table and we're like, oh, there's 30 more items in here. So basically our progress bar keeps getting longer, and then we're kind of catching up to it.
Right. All right. Well, it just finished over here on this end, so I imagine it's going to catch up there at some point. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you have people editing, I mean, so But it seems like it's working okay here in terms of creating
Yeah.
records. And
No, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
It is moving containers down, by the way. There are image containers in these things, right? So there's a little bit of extra fatness in there, right? So
Yeah, and it's pretty cool when you think about it. It's pulling that off of California and then doing a multi-threaded push to 3 different servers all around, literally around the globe.
yeah.
With all that container data and keeping them all up to date with each
Well,
other.
this is the only time I've ever seen a legit enterprise deploy. I mean, like where multiple servers were like really, really humming. I mean, you had this working on 2 servers back 3 or 4 years ago, but having it really like this and having it deployed and then being so easy to roll this stuff out with Amazon. You have your IT experts like Jacob Taylor comes in there and just, you got a new server and boom. I mean, we could have servers in every continent in half an hour, It'd be lickety split.
Yeah.
So, all right, question. I think the issue, Mike Scott was asking a question. Okay, so there's just a conversation going over here. Mr. Scott, if you choose duplicate of an existing config, does it create a new UUID for that config? Was his question.
That's an interesting question. Yes, it does. It does.
Okay.
That hasn't changed since 5, so I had to think about it for a second, but yes, it does.
Yep. Okay. And then let's see. I already had the feeling that I bought. Oh yeah, someone already said they have the feeling that this is hot shit. I think that's hot shit, and it's worth every cent. Thanks to Jesse a lot. See, I just put it in real plain English for everyone so we understand. I mean, this stuff is worth this. Listen, if you have to replicate servers around the world and you want it to work well, you have to use this. There's that or roll your own. How long? I mean, Jesse, I know you don't probably want to say, but I would guess you probably, in Mirrorsync engineering time, you have probably well over $1 million of engineering into this product, I would guess.
If I had to, I don't have any numbers in front of me, but if I had to just go by my gut, I would say I have somewhere between 10 and 15,000 hours into this.
Yeah, and I'd figure at whatever hourly rate. Yeah, so that's kind of like starting point. We're over $1 million in terms of revenue because we've had to rewrite it a number of times, and this is infinitely more sophisticated. So, and ours is free, and this is practically for what you're getting is free, right? So as far as I'm concerned, it's basically free. Can I configure multiple spokes in a config now if they are SQL server ?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can have multiple. The only limitation really with multiple spokes is that they all have to be of the same type. So you could sync, for instance, an Oracle database with 6 FileMaker servers. You could sync 1 FileMaker server with 6 MySQL databases. You could sync 1 FileMaker server with 3 FileMaker servers. The main issue is that if you wanted to sync 1 FileMaker server with, say, 1 Oracle database, 1 MySQL database, and 1 FileMaker database, you could do that too, but you would need to do that by creating 3 different configurations. Price-wise, it winds up being the exact same. It's just that from a configuration standpoint, you would set up a different configuration for each one.
All right, so let's talk about this. If you were going to set this up for 4 servers around the globe, what are we talking price-wise here? How much is this going to cost?
FileMaker to FileMaker is $1,600 without the discount.
Without the discount.
And that's per pair of servers. So in this case, it's 4 servers, but it's really 3 pairs. So it'd be 1,600 times 3. So this configuration that we're doing right now with a hub and 3 spokes would be 4,800, and then with the discount applied to that.
Okay, well, I can tell you $5,000 of, I don't know what Alexi Folger charges for her time. Maybe she's worth every penny, I'm sure, but how much of this could Alexi build for $5,000? Pretty much not much. That's probably,
There's a lot going on. There's a whole lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big product. I mean, and it's really, frankly, the only way to get the enterprise. So, we're going to pick it up tomorrow. We're basically at 90 minutes here. We'll edit down, cut it down, but there's not that much fluff in there, honestly. Ken,
this has been really fun. It's been really fun.
Well, people are saying
questions.
They were saying they read the manual last night, but they were confused, and then the demo cleared it up. So we're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to go through the config, but we're going to do it with Australia. We're adding Australia, and then what we're going to do is we're going to invite people probably on Thursday to come in and just everyone get in and have fun with the file. Safe for work data, please. Right? We really appreciate that. Do we need to edit the... Okay, so some of the questions that are going to come up now, we're going to save them for tomorrow. So Tanya, if you can bring that question tomorrow, it would be really great. Scott, I think we answered. If we didn't get your question, please bring it tomorrow. If you want to pre-position a question with me in advance, shoot me an email to support@RC Consulting and just say, hey, for Richard with Jesse, right? And that way we make sure we pick that up in the conversation. So, yeah, Lexi's still there. So thank you everyone for coming and hanging out. I appreciate it. We will pick it up tomorrow. And so we're day 2 complete. We'll pick it up day 3 tomorrow. Jesse, any final words of wisdom for us?
Just thanks, everybody. Thanks for your encouragement last week. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. Thanks for all your questions. It really makes it a lot more fun.
Okay, and I am going to once again do the quickie promotion for Jesse here of the Mirrorsync deal. So if you want to save money, I mean, it's already, listen, $5,000 for what you're getting is already basically free. I hate to tell you that, but if you're rolling out to the enterprise and you can't afford $5,000, your enterprise is going out of business. Just leave the company. They're out of business. They're gone. Right? All right. If you can't afford $5,000, because I guarantee these servers that we're running on right now, these are high-end Amazon servers. This demo is costing me on a per-day basis, just to give this to you folks, about $200 a day, $300 a day in servers. So, right. That's just the demo. Never mind if I had to run this all month. So, cool. All right. Well,
and these are super high-end servers. These are much, much bigger than what I think most people would normally run. These are like 16 CPUs, and I mean they're crazy specs.
Well, but the idea is that if we have to put 200 or 300 people on each server, I'm okay with that. I'm totally good with that, right? So,
I didn't want everybody to think that it was going to cost them $200 a day to run multiple FileMaker servers.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, if you have 5 people or 10 people, then this is a fun conversation, but you're not the enterprise, right? Once again, I mean, how many of you people actually, and I mean you people, but I'm being nice. Alexi's doing some work. She's all over the place. I know she even does. I mean, she says she just works still at Apple. I mean, she rolls out a solution at Apple. She needs this. It has to go to all the geos. She probably needs 6 or 7 servers around the world. And Apple should write a check for it because it'd be like that. It's an easy one. But if you're like my company with 30 guys or gals and guys and whatever, and we're across mostly North America, then maybe an East and West Coast if I was bored, but most of the time we just use one server, right? So
I do notice a significant difference for me on the speed when I connect into the Virginia server versus the Northern California server. I can really feel the difference. I'm in Georgia.
Right.
So for me, it's a much shorter trip to Virginia than California.
Yeah, it's about we had whole conversations on the latencies, right? So, so the latency speed is, if you're going to be around, if you happen to be around, we have time. We should have the conversation maybe on Thursday about latency. It's an important one because Claris officially says if you're using their products, you need to have a latency of less than 150. That's officially in their paperwork. So I was unaware of that till I stumbled across the. In the documentation randomly the other day, and I was like, "Wow, okay." And you cannot get from Australia to the United States basically less than 200. It's it averages about, because the people here are watching this in Australia, and they were like getting like consistently like 195 to about 220, and that's just too slow. So you really need a local server, and if you're working with people in the United States, you got to use this stuff. So that's the enterprise. So if you're 5 or 10 people and then your budget, I understand, but if you have basically, if you're the enterprise, you're serving over 1,000 people worldwide pretty easily, probably. Then what's it going to cost for servers for those people, right? So, yeah, it's just relevant to the adjustable to the size of the organization, right? So, because if Apple squeals about $5,000 for worldwide servers, yeah.
Right.
All right, everyone, get your special deal. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Richard.
Bye.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected, the quarterback. Great read. good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.